Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. I am old enough to remember when the evil regime in Iran took over the country and held Americans from the U.S. Embassy there for 444 days. It was not until President Ronald Reagan became president did they decide to let them go. There has been a Shiite Muslim theocracy in Iran ever since. Shiite Muslims constitute about 10 to 20% of all Muslims, and they believe that the Quran is 100% true and that they need to kill all non-Muslims. Sharia law is the law of the land there in Iran, and women have no rights or freedoms whatsoever. It has been ruled by an evil regime for a long time now, and with little hope of change. But that may have changed. The term evil regime, according to the Times of Israel, back actually last June, said that the evil regime may sound like a hyperbole in a world accustomed to diplomatic euphemisms. But when it comes to the Islamic Republic of Iran, the phrase is often used not for dramatic effect, but because it fits. The regime's systematic repression of home, export, of terror abroad, anti-Semitic ideology, and military support for genocidal regimes have turned Iran into a global threat cloaked in religious rhetoric. From brutalizing its own people to arming terrorists and helping Russia bomb Ukraine citizens, Iran has become a central force of modern evil. And at the heart of its ideology, it's a genocidal obsession with the destruction of Israel. Brutality at home. A nation held hostage here. Since its establishment in 1979, Iran's theocratic regime has ruled through fear. Political dissent is crushed, often with bullets and hangings. The 2022 protests followed the death of Mahsa Amini, a young woman detained by the morality police for improper hijab, where met the legal force. Hundreds of Iranians, including teenagers and children, were killed. Thousands were imprisoned or tortured simply for demanding basic freedoms. The regime's morality police continue to police women's clothing and behavior with ferocity. A woman in today's Iran can still be arrested, beaten, and even killed for showing her hair. I have some friends who were in Jordan, the Muslim country of Jordan, as missionaries, and when they got back, I asked, what's the biggest difference? What have you really enjoyed being back in the United States? And she spoke up and she said, I can actually look up now when I go outside my house. I can not just look at my feet, because if she even accidentally, and she isn't even Muslim, but she had to cover her hair, and if she even accidentally looked a man in the eye, she could be killed. Women are second-class citizens. The status of women in Iran remains severely repressed. Despite being highly educated and active in civil society, women are denied equal rights in inheritance, testimony, child custody, and marriage. Female activists have been jailed or driven into exile. Those who stay risk surveillance and harassment and imprisonment. The regime's oppression with with controlling women's bodies and choices is not merely about religion. It's a tool of totalitarian control. Iran's influence extends far beyond its borders, primarily through the funding and arming of violent proxy groups. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, various Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, and both Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza all operate with Tehran's backing. These groups target civilians. They destabilize governments and serve as Iran's long arm in its campaign to remake the Middle East in its image. But in recent years, Iran's destructive hand has reached far beyond the region. What's their common goal? Well, it's destabilization of the region and destroying Israel. The October 7th Hamas massacre, which killed over 1,200 Israelis, including entire families, women, and babies, was carried out by a group long armed and trained by Iran. While the world reeled in horror, Tehran cheered instead. So Iran has supplied Russia with hundreds of suicide drones, the same drones now used by Putin's forces to attack Ukrainian cities. These Iranian-made weapons have targeted residential buildings and power plants and hospitals and schools. Dozens of civilians, including women and children, have died in attacks carried out by Iranian technology. In doing so, the Islamic Republic has become an accomplice in one of the most brutal wars in modern Europe, enabling a genocidal regime to wage terror against a democratic nation. So what's the conclusion here? Well, a global struggle for freedom. The Islamic Republic of Iran is not simply a Muslim theocracy. It is a totalitarian state that uses religion to justify repression, terror, and expansionism. The Iranian people, especially women and the youth, are often the first victims of this regime. But the consequences of Tehran's actions are felt across continents. Iran's just the pursuit of nuclear weapons poses an existential threat to Israel and the destabilizing force in the entire region. Despite the 2015 nuclear deal, which of course is terrible, Iran has continued enriching uranium and hiding military dimensions of the program. The threat is not just the weapons themselves, but the ideology behind them. A regime that speaks openly of wiping Israel off the face of the map cannot be allowed to acquire a nuclear bomb. But their time, as I said, of terror may be coming to an end. As you may have heard, you know that early Saturday morning, I'm sure, the United States and Israel struck Iran. This comes from Casey Akvia of the Daily Wire. And Casey says that that there are 7 different updates to bring you up to speed. Number 1, Operation Epic Fury hits hard. Precision munitions rain down from land, air, and sea in the opening hours, hitting Islamic Revolutionary Guard corps, command and control centers, the Iranian air defenses, missile and drone launch sites, and military airfields. According to the U.S. Central Command, the strikes began at 1:15 a.m. Eastern Time, and CENTCOM called Operation Epic Fury the largest regional concentration of American military firepower in a generation. Number 2, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. Precision U.S. and Israel strikes hit the Supreme Leader's compound in the opening hours of the operation, killing Iran's top ruler. He was 86, had led the country since 1989 and was only the second person to hold the post of supreme leader since the 1979 Iran revolution that brought a radical clerical regime to power. Israel's Channel 12 reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump have been shown images of the body after it was recovered. And President Trump called Khomeini one of the most evil people in history and said that his death delivered justice for the people of Iran, for all great Americans, and for those around the world who suffered under him and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. Khomeini had ruled tyrannically for decades, overseeing widespread oppression, including the violent crackdown on protesters that left an estimated 32,000 dead in just last January. And honestly, those are the low numbers. I've heard in the 70,000 range. Now, Trump added that the Supreme Leader could not evade the strike, despite any efforts to hide highly sophisticated tracking systems that coordinated between the U.S. and Israel made it impossible for him to escape. Now, number 3, Iranians encouraged to take fate into their own hands. This is their time. After Khomeini was killed, President Trump called this the single greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country, a moment that some Iranians appear to be making with hope. Videos circulating on social media show cheers across Iran Saturday night following reports of the Supreme Leader's death, including in Tehran itself, and videos emerging from London showing members of the Iranian diaspora joining in the celebrations. Trump added that many members of the IRGC military and other security forces reportedly no longer want to fight and are seeking immunity. He expressed hope that the IRGC and police could peacefully merge with Iranian patriots working together to restore the country to what he described as its deserved greatness. So, number 4, Iran's retaliatory strikes across the Middle East, and there have been some. In retaliation, following his death, Khomeini's death, Iran has launched missile and drone attacks across the region. Israel has seen some of this, multiple missile impacts, including in Tel Aviv. In Qatar, missiles targeted Al Udeid Air Base, United Arab Emirates, the UAE, Al Dhafra Air Base was struck. One person was killed in Abu Dhabi. Bahrain, U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters and residential buildings were targeted. In Kuwait International Airport and Salih Al Salam Air Base were attacked. All missiles were intercepted, though a drone did hit Kuwait's International Airport, causing minor injuries to some of the employees there. Jordan was also targeted. Muwafq Al Salti Air Base is the one that was targeted there. Even Iraq, U.S. consulate in Erbil and Erbil airports targeted by drones, which were shot down, all of them. Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, and was targeted, but attacks there were repelled, so nothing got through. And even Oman was not spared. They had their they had a few attacks there, but most of the country was not targeted, so that was good. Part of that was the fact that they had mediated nuclear negotiations as recently as Thursday there. So, number 5. The U.S. and Israel are operating in full cooperation. The strikes on Iran were part of a coordinated military campaign between the United States and Israel. Strategic analysis of the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, the FDD, note that the United States designated its part of the Operation Epic Fury, as we talked about, while Israel called its portion Operation Lion's Roar. reflecting a division of labor that plays to each side's strengths. Israel focusing on regime leadership and intelligence targets, and the United States using its superior firepower to strike missile silos and major military sites. The level of cooperation was clear in advance. In the days leading up to the strikes, American refueling tankers were stationed in Ben Gurion airport, while battle fighters jets were on the runway in Israel for offensive operations for the first time, actually. And number 6, top Iranian officials reportedly killed. So this is kind of interesting. In addition to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, Israel claimed several high-ranking Iranian figures were killed in the strikes, including Iran's defense minister, head of the Iran Security Council, commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, intelligence official, a couple of research officials, and a longtime defense liaison. And number 7, Trump says bombing will continue. So President Trump warned that the air campaign in Iran isn't ending anytime soon, saying heavy and precise strikes will keep going throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve what he described as peace across the Middle East and beyond. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth echoed that stance, saying the United States will not tolerate missiles aimed at Americans, and vowed that the Iranian Navy will be destroyed. So obviously this strike was done with very much a precision strike. And so I wanted to go into just a little bit more of just how precise this was and how effective it was. Jordan Schroeder, he again writes for Daily Wire. He says that before the missiles ever hit and lit up the Tehran sky, the hunt was already over. For months, U.S. intelligence officials were quietly tracking the movements of Iran's most powerful men, piecing together a detailed picture of where and when they would gather. Analysts monitored patterns, locations, and leadership schedules, waiting for a rare window when the regime's top figures would be in one place at the same time. That window came early Saturday morning in Tehran when senior political and military leaders assembled inside a heavily guarded compound housing the officials of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, the presidency, and the Supreme National Security Council. According to the New York Times, citing people familiar with the operations and officials briefed on the intelligence, the CIA had tracked Khomeini for months and passed what's described as high fidelity intelligence on the location to Israel ahead of the strike. U.S. and Israeli officials reportedly adjusted the timing of the operation after learning that multiple senior leaders would be gathered together. It's not usually a good thing in a time of war. Israel had assessed that those expected at the compound included all the guys that we just talked about that were actually taken out. And around 8 a.m. Tehran time, Israel fighter jets reportedly took off. These are the Israeli ones, and they were armed with long-range precision munitions. Roughly 2 hours later, missiles struck multiple locations in Tehran, including the leadership compound. And senior national security officials were gathered in one building, while Khomeini was in another nearby structure, is what the Times reported. And an Israeli defense official claimed that the strike was carried out simultaneously at several locations in Tehran, adding that Israel achieved tactical surprise despite Iranian preparations for war. Now, Iran's state news agency, the IRNA, also confirmed Sunday the deaths of several senior military figures Israel said it targeted, including the Shem Kahari, Pakpor and Nasser Zadal, which I guess were definitely military leaders that were also taken out. Hours after Khomeini's death was confirmed, and Iran's leadership reeled from the blow. Tehran unleashed a volley of retaliatory missiles and rockets toward Israel. Those that we actually even just went over, not just in Israel, but other areas as well. As the latest reports, Israeli rescue services and military officials have said that at least 10 people have been killed on Israeli soil from Iran's retaliation, including civilians in Bayat Shemesh and Tel Aviv, and dozens more wounded across central and southern regions as a result of incoming missiles and, of course, also intercepted debris. So yeah, there's a lot right there that's been going on, and I wanted to bring that to you because months of surveillance and intelligence cooperation just converged in a strike that reshaped Iran's power structure in a matter of minutes, and it ignited one of the most volatile escalations in the Middle East history, because I mean this is a big deal, and it's this has been festering for a very long time. But I wanted to play for you the White House video of President Trump announcing the strike on Iran, and it's several minutes long, but I wanted to play this for you because I think he really hits the nail on the head with a lot of this. So here, listen to what he has to say on this. And like I say, this is a very good thing for us and the world. And this is how Trump puts it.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, We obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
So there's the response, or I guess really the announcements from the White House and President Trump. But I have to say, the meme that hit the nail on the head that I saw about this was it had two pictures. One was a woman. One was many women in Iran just celebrating in the streets. The other picture was women in the U.S. protesting in the streets, and the caption said, "Iranian women celebrating freedom, while American women protested." That right there, kind of sums it all up for me. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you think on it. I think this is a day of celebration. I think that this is needed to happen for a long time now. And I think good things will come from it. But you may think differently. You may think the same. I would love to hear from you on it. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.